Hi guys, welcome to Going Deeper. This time for the first time without Ryan. We'll jump in. Pastor CJ, you spoke this week about the first calendar of Advent. Since we don't have the recording, especially, would love to hear you kind of give us a summary of everything you talked about.
Yeah, of course. So this past week we talked about hope as that is the first candle that we lit on Sunday morning. So I kind of started talking about like the whole idea of hope, the whole Advent and like the anticipation that comes with that. Of that this season, Christmas, like though it's like fun and beautiful and like there's so many good things about it, like there's so many beautiful things about it. It's also like a time for us to slow down, to remember, and to kind of like to remember what that truly means for us. That there's so many different meanings of like what Christmas is for depending on who you ask, but it's also just this beautiful thing of remembering that it is Jesus's birth, but also remembering and reminding ourselves of what that means for our faith today. That yeah, like, it's good to celebrate Jesus's birth, to remember it, but it's also this anticipation of what's to come after, of Jesus came to earth, that he lived his life as an example for us, that he died on the cross to save us, and he also came back to life. So it's kind of like this almost like I don't know if like balance is the right word, but I think it's like doing both of like remembering his birth while anticipating what's to come. And also like in that the hope that is to come, the hope of the promise of Jesus, of what he did on the cross, but also his second coming, which obviously we don't know. And I'm not saying like I know, like I'm not going into that, but it's just this like hope of anticipating the promise of what God told us and the fulfillment of that promise through Jesus. So on Sunday, we looked at Colossians 1, verses 15 to 20, and the fact that in this passage, like this passage alone, there's only 6 verses on it, but this passage like dives into like three R's that I was really excited about. That Jesus in this passage reveals who the Father is. Jesus rules over all things and that Jesus reconciles all of creation. So it's this whole idea of like we turn to Jesus for hope, we turn to Jesus for who he is and the way that he revealed the love of the Father for us. But it's also we turn to him because he is the one who is the head of the body, head of the church. He rules over all things, and that's part of who he is. And he's part of the Trinity. And there's just so much in this passage that we can learn about Jesus, about the Father, about the Holy Spirit, but also the end of it. Jesus reconciles all things, all of creation, and that is the promise of the cross. That it is the promise to reconcile everything, to restore all things, and that's something that we can hold on to. That is the hope that we can hold on to with everything that's going on, with all of the diseases, all of the death, all of the heartbreak in the world, that we can hold on to that promise. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think sometimes in the Christmas season, it encourages us even more to like put on a mask to be like, no, everything's great and happy and cheery. And we have lights up and
Yeah.
like let's pretend that the world is happy for a month to go into that. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We don't have to pretend everything's perfect, but we have hope in the future
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
hope because of the past. So, yeah, I appreciate that. For us, as we're talking either in a grow group, so as we're thinking for ourselves, what would be some maybe practical advice or a challenge you'd give us if we wanted to kind of yeah really dwell in this week of hope?
Yeah, like I think part of it is like I think we can all agree that like Christmas is such like a busy time. Like it's like there's so many things going on, so many parties to go to, so much food, which is amazing. But like things are just like going, going, going. That I think hearing this, like thinking of hope, thinking of like the promise of Jesus and the promise of the cross is that I think practically my challenge for us is like to actually like slow down, to sit down, to ask ourselves of like, okay, where does my hope come from? When things are challenging, when things are good, when things are like everything in between, like to sit down, to slow down and to ask ourselves of like, where does my hope come from? But also to do it in community. Like a lot of you watch this like before grow group, like what Pastor Tony was saying, but like to actually sit down together, prayer, like pray together and just like ask the Holy Spirit together of like, where does my hope come from? And what does it look like to constantly turn to Jesus, to look at Jesus individually, but also in community to like for the next steps, for what to do next, for how to respond to everything around me and just like all things like in everything that we do. Like, what does it look like to hold on to that hope and just like ask Jesus to lead us? Yeah.
No, absolutely. All right. Well, if you miss Ryan as much as we do, this Sunday he's preaching, and he's preaching on the peace candle. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, we're excited to hopefully see you there.
Bye, everyone.